There's been a huge title change on SmackDown. Crazy, I know. Welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast review of SmackDown. I am Joe Pequenel. I'm joined by Andy Datson. And let's talk about SmackDown. Because in the main event of this week's episode, not the go-home show, next week's episode is the go-home show for Backlash, the greatest show. We got the women's tag team title match between Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Sasha Banks and Bayley. And this was set up last week, and it wasn't really mentioned that much on this show. I kind of forgot it was happening. And then they were like, here's the women's tag title match. I was like, oh yeah, that is happening. Great.
It was the main event?
Yeah, in the main event as well. And I thought that this match was really fun. I thought it was fluid. There was barely a rest hold in sight. I thought there were some really inventive spots. And I especially really liked the finish of this match. Because the match was sort of back and forth throughout anyways. But then it got towards the end. And Banks had just locked the bank statement onto Nikki Cross. But as she was getting into it, Bayley tagged herself in. So Bayley gets into the ring and Sasha Banks is like, what are you doing? I had the bank statement in. And Bayley's like, no, I got this. But as she tries to capitalize on that and do her own bank statement, Cross counters, has a little bit of a comeback before Banks then gets involved, breaks up Nikki Cross and Bayley, drags Bayley to the corner, tags herself back in, and then does this really, really, really cool way to get into the bank statement that I've never seen before, from the apron, kind of flinging herself over the apron straight into like a roll up into the bank statement on Cross. It looked chef's kiss. It looked so good. But then Cross even countered that bank statement, and then Banks countered the counter to roll her up to get the win. I was like, oh my god, this is great. It was a really, really good finish. And then
it was counterific.
It was counterific. And Banks and Bayley celebrated really over-the-top celebrations of them just running around going like, we're the champs, we're great, la, 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 la. But it still had those seeds of dissension in there with, Bayley tagging herself in and Banks being like, the hell, man, what are you doing? But then they still managed to pull out the win, and now we've got another wrinkle in this story of them being tag champs. I thought this was great.
Yeah, they've clearly been watching the show, because last week we were like, they're just doing the same thing every week, but this was something, not, I wouldn't say completely different, but it was something new. And there were definitely like more, it actually continued the story. So now they're tag champions. So they've got this whole kind of like, we're best friends. There's a bit of dissension, but also we've got these tag belts. So there's just more at stake for when one of them does eventually turn the other. And yeah, like you said, it was a really nice match. And it's amazing what happens when you give your women wrestlers. I mean, it was only 10 minutes, but 10 minutes is still 5 times longer than most of the matches they give their women. And actually, we'll talk about it later, but there was another women's match on this show, which I really liked as well. Because it got a bit more time. Because if you give anyone, doesn't matter who it is, if you give someone a minute and a half, they can't do anything in it. Because like at least 20 seconds of that is going to be the finish. So, but yeah, it was a really good match. And I really appreciate that they are doing something new to this. It's obviously, it's a shame for Cross and Bliss, but I don't really care for that act very much anymore, because all it is kind of a way to keep a moment of bliss going. And clearly, like with Asuka, Vince appears to enjoy Nikki Cross just blurting out in the most Scottish accent possible. Not that she doesn't have a very Scottish accent, as we've seen when she tried to say support WrestleTalk, whatever it was.
Give us a subscribe.
Yeah, give us a subscribe. Yeah, that one. But yeah, it's just a really nice way to finish the show. And I knew the match was happening, but I didn't expect it to be the main event. But it makes sense that it was the main event now,
totally.
Especially because like the rest of the show was a good show, but it was relatively uneventful in most parts. So no, it was a really nice way to end the show. It gave the belts actually some prestige, which is something they haven't had for months. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I thought it was great. The match itself was really good. Like the caliber of wrestling in the match was really good. Like I said, there was barely a rest hold anywhere. It's crazy. It's not even necessarily just about the time, But if you say, have 10 minutes and don't do a rest hold, it's going to be a really bloody good match. Because guess what? If they're not doing rest holds, they're doing spots. And spots are great. And they tell stories and they get you invested in the wrestling. It's really not that hard to figure out. I thought it was really good. And like you said, it's just another layer on the story. It's pretty much exactly as you said. Like, we were complaining they weren't doing anything new, and now they've done something new. So it's still the same story that's being spun, but at least now it's got another layer onto it.
Hi, Vince. What you should do next week is bring back Deuce and Domino. There you go. Expect that one next week.
That's definitely going to happen. And like you said, it was a really good way to end the show. I was pleasantly surprised when that was the main event, because when the match finished, I was like, oh, cool. That was a really good match. Yeah. I was like, oh, the copyright logo's up. That was the main event. Awesome. It's like, it just made it that much better, I think. And it really puts over this whole women's division of Bayley being the champ, her and Banks now holding the tag titles together as kind of this dominant unit that they are. But also there's still that tension between them. So I think it's now turning into a really, really good story. And I'm invested again in Banks and Bayley and that, because I wasn't for a little bit because they were just spinning the same plate. But yeah, I thought it was great. And, props to Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross as well. They were good tag champs, and they put on one heck of a match to put over Banks and Bayley in this one, which was great. But elsewhere on the show, it started off with Jeff Hardy. There was a recap of the Jeff Hardy angle from last week where he did a hit and run and then was absolved of doing a hit and run because he wasn't drunk, which makes total sense. He came out and, described things from his perspective, saying he pulled up at the show, and as he was getting out of his car, he got attacked by something. It was like an anvil hit him in the back of the head. And, the next thing he knew, he was in a bush and he stank of alcohol, and people were asking him questions, and he didn't know what was going on.
Was he in a Wile E. Coyote cartoon being hit by an anvil, ending up in a bush?
Surely it would have made more sense to say, I was being hit by like a mallet.
He should have come out with like a big lump on his head that was just like slowly growing with stars going around his eyes.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, he was saying that he passed all the sobriety tests and came back. All of them. All the sobriety
Are you drunk?
Tests.
No. All right.
Well, that's clear cut. Why would he lie? They gave him a lift back to SmackDown, which was nice. But then they had. He said that there were eyewitnesses that said that the attacker that attacked Hardy had a red hair and a red beard. So
do you know what? I genuinely
Eric
forgot.
Rowan returned.
I was going to say I genuinely forgot about Sheamus. I went, no, they're not doing this again, are they? And then it was actually his stunt double. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then I went, oh no, wait, that's Sheamus, isn't it? That's Sheamus.
It is Sheamus, unless it isn't. Because Sheamus came out immediately afterwards saying, like, why don't you just admit what you did? He wasn't saying, oh, you got me, it was me. It was him just saying, like, I didn't do it. Why don't you just tell people that you did it? And he was saying, don't worry about disappointing your family. They're used to it. It was like, oh, that's a bit of a harsh line, but that's kind of cool.
He said, you're not a man, you're just a junkie. So it was equally as distasteful as last week, but in a better way, weirdly.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
So it was still very close to it was still very on the nose, but in a kind of like the lack of car this week helped, because it's like, okay, cool. So they're just that's in the past, and now they're just gonna sort of use words rather than like really quite sort of visceral action. So yeah, no, and like, but like, if there's been lots of if there's been lots of eyewitnesses saying it was a man with red hair and a red beard, and then Sheamus keeps attacking Jeff Hardy, why hasn't Sheamus been at least questioned on suspicion of possibly causing this incident?
I mean,
or did he just go,
crime.
well, I haven't had any alcohol? They're like, oh man, well, it can't have been him.
Can't have been him. person who did it must have been drunk, because you can only be drunk when you do hit and runs.
Yes. And if you do a hit and run,
just to remind you.
Yeah, sorry, if you do a hit and run, oh no, we're just going to keep talking over each other.
You go.
If you do a hit and run, make sure you drink some alcohol afterwards, because otherwise, because it's illegal not to be drunk when you do a hit and run.
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
Top tip.
So Sheamus was saying, "I didn't do it, fella," and then Jeff Hardy ran out to try and assault him, and Sheamus just bro kicked him, which I thought was quite funny.
And then kept throwing him into the plexiglass screens, which one of them broke. And you could see the set designers going, "Oh crap!
Oh god, yeah." Which it sets up their match at Backlash, the greatest show. Which I mean, it has some stakes now. It has some kind of personal rivalry going into it, so that's good. I think they've done a good job with this story. Wasn't a huge fan of it last week. I thought this week, because like you said, it wasn't so visceral. You didn't have the imagery of Jeff Hardy acting drunk and being taken away in cuffs. Like that wasn't so overt. It was easier to digest this week.
But speaking of digesting and stakes, Otis was up next against Baron Corbin. So Otis was backstage. Thank you. Otis was backstage, and he, for some reason, Baron Corbin's throne was just sitting there, and it had a crown on it. So Otis was just like, "Oh yeah," and then took the crown and walked off. And then Baron Corbin was very upset by this.
And he was saying, "Who took my crown?" And then he went out to go challenge Otis. This whole match was pointless.
It was completely pointless.
Yeah, because Otis and Baron Corbin had this match. It was fine. I thought Otis looked pretty good sometimes, actually getting some offense in. He did some cool throws onto Baron Corbin, which is impressive because Baron Corbin's pretty big. Put over Otis as
he's nearly 6'8".
I know, yeah, nearly. And he kind of put in over kind of how strong Otis is, rather than just being big comedy goof man. It was nice to see him be like, no, I can actually wrestle as well. But then Corbin went outside, tried to get his crown, and then just hit Otis with a chair, which Otis basically no-sold. Yeah. And then, so it's a DQ thrown out, and then they got back in the ring, and then Otis hit him with a caterpillar. And what was the point of this? This isn't a story that's being continued. This is just a match that happened, and no one won.
Yeah,
Corbin stood tall with the chair, and then Otis stood tall with the caterpillar, so nobody wins.
If you want Otis to win a match, don't do it against Baron Corbin,
or just have him beat Corbin.
Yeah, or just have him win clean. Because I do feel like the Corbin reign of terror is kind of slowly losing its charm backstage, because he isn't being used as he was this time last year, which obviously, I mean, it's bad for him, but I mean, for my personal enjoyment is a good thing. But yeah, it was just like, right, okay, so that was fine.
Yeah.
You could have just added one. You could have just added 1 minute to another 3 matches on the card, and that you wouldn't need to have had this segment.
Yeah, exactly. It was really short, really kind of dumb. I didn't get it. Nothing was built. Nothing got further. No one got over. It was just there. Sure, you were reminded that Otis was Mr. Money in the Bank, I guess. But then after that, we had the storyline, the show-long storyline, I should say, of Miz and Morrison trying to make Braun Strowman angry. So the reason for this is they were saying, which I liked their reasoning behind it, saying that we can make Braun Strowman mad because when he's mad, he makes way more mistakes, which means that at Backlash, we're way more likely going to win because Braun Strowman's going to be not thinking about what he's doing. He's going to be all angry and brr, which we've kind of seen that in the past. That's not completely unfounded, which was solid reasoning.
It was a good idea, but instead of being mastermind, sort of pranksters, what they did was they were Bart and Milhouse from the Angry Dad episode of The Simpsons, where Homer confesses that his veins are full of Rageahol, which is one of the best quotes from the entire 412 million series they've got now. And Braun completely just looked like a goof for most of it, because all that happened was they would do a prank, for example. There you go. So the first prank was that I imagine they spiked his drink with something that made it fizz up. So I imagine it was some kind of vinegar bicarb solution thing that made it all puff up. But Braun, because his one emotion is "Urgh," just stood there, went, and they went, "Urgh," and then sort of walked off. Which I won't. Don't just take my word for it.
No, because now it's time for the SmackDown highlight of the week, everyone, as we get Braun Strowman's reaction to his protein shake being slightly messed with. Are you ready for this?
Like, that's this one emotion. That's the only emotion he is able to convey on this.
Oh, it's great.
Because I get it. Like, he's just a big guy, and therefore
Big guy.
he's just a real big guy. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, I know. But then it just got more goofy and more goofy. And then
then suddenly it wasn't goofy.
It suddenly wasn't goofy.
So weird.
And then it was.
And then it got goofy again.
Yeah, it went. You can okay. If you haven't seen the show, Miz and Morrison are sitting in a van for the entirety of the show. What do you think happens to that van because Braun Strowman's involved? Everyone, have a guess.
Let's go through what happened for the rest of the show first, because they mess with his protein shake, and during the whole time they're watching Braun on security cameras and stuff that they've got set up in their van, and they're being proper kiddie about it, being like, "Oh, we got him! Get these hands, more like wash these hands," etc. Being very happy about it and happy with themselves. Later on, Braun's getting interviewed by Kayla Braxton, and they're in the van going, "Oh, now it's time," and they press a controller, and then suddenly green slime falls from the ceiling, but they miscalculated it. They put it onto Kayla instead of Braun, so Kayla gets completely dunked in it. Some of it splashes onto Braun anyway, and then they're like, "Oh my god, I said put it on the left," and Morrison was like, "I did put it on the left," and then he didn't, etc. Whatever. Braun gets slightly annoyed at that one. Kayla calls them bastards.
She does say bastards, doesn't she? Yeah, no, she looks like she's gone like 12 rounds with the Hulk. But she's just covered in his green slime, and it was fun to see Kayla have a bit of a personality. I was like, oh, okay, Kayla's calling people bastards now. Yeah. It's going to be Kayla and Braun against Miz and Morrison next week, I hope.
Absolutely, yeah.
That'd be great. Because he wouldn't have to do much. You'd have to do the Nicholas thing where Kayla just stands in the ring kind of going, and then she just tags Braun in and just kills them.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
But yeah, so that was really goofy, because then they go, "Oh man, we miscalculated. Because you said left," and I was like, "But that wasn't left." I was like, "No, not your left." And it was like,
yeah, very goofy. But then, okay, so we've got a protein shake that bubbled over. Oh no, it got his hands dirty. They've got green slime. Oh, it's made Braun's beard a bit green because it splashed onto it. Oh, that's unfortunate. Let's go smash up Braun's car.
Yeah.
What? That's actual property damage. And they come in with a golf club and a baseball bat and just smash Braun's car, like his windshield. Which, like... That's gone from 1 to 100 real fast. Like,
have you noticed that it's only baby faces who get arrested? The heels could just get away with it. In the police station, that they're going, "Oh well, he is a heel," so that is in his character. So it's not anything different from usual. But yeah, Miz goes, "Well, luckily I've been practicing my golf game," and then just smashes the window with a golf club because there's a fly on it, and then. Yeah, and then John Morrison just has a baseball bat and just smashes the rest of it, and they just walk off laughing. I guess
they were being proper pricks about it as well, which I thought was quite funny. Them just being like Miz pretending to throw a ball to Morrison and him doing like a really wild swing to hit it, but of course just hitting the windshield. I thought was quite like a good kind of goofy funny, whereas the rest of the show was a bit not goofy funny. And then later on, Braun finds them in the van. And of course, He tips over the van, which, you know what? I've missed this Braun because we've just got big monster Braun who goes and runs around the ring and doesn't do much else. We haven't got Braun that tips stuff over in ages, and that's really what got him over. So there's a part of me that's just going, oh, this Braun again. This is nice.
As much as I enjoy van tips and things like that, they could have put a bit more effort into it, because the wire that was used to pull over the van was so visible that it was like they didn't even attempt to make it not visible. It was just this giant wire attached to the axle underneath the car. And it was just like, we can see that. You've had 2 weeks to edit this out. And like, apparently, and like, this is a different thing, but there's been a couple of, should we call them wardrobe malfunctions in the past couple of weeks during a couple of matches. I won't specify so people won't Google, but like, and they've kept them in the show. Like, is no one watching these things back to edit them out? Like, and the wire it wasn't even like they put some tape over it to hide it. It was just there. It was like, it's just it was so lazy. Anyway, but yes, I liked it.
That aside, I enjoyed Braun flipping a thing because it's Braun flipping a thing, and that's what got him over in the first place. But yeah, he said they're dead men, and he's going to see him at Backlash, the greatest show. Which, you know, it's something. Their story so far has been non-existent, so it's something. They're trying to make Braun angry. Braun is being like, you can't make me angry, but in the process is getting angry. So perhaps that will play into the match somehow. I'm still into the story. I think it did okay. Could have been a little less childish for the first two, especially, but it was okay for what it was. Yeah. Speaking of childish, we then get an interview backstage with Shorty G. This was a massive return on this show. Just a huge return in this next segment because Shorty G was getting interviewed. And then the return of short jokes. Of Shorty G being on the receiving end of short jokes, because Mojo Rowley came in and was just like, oh, let's talk about my pal Gronk. And I was like, he's gone from WWE, let's not. And then he said, he got robbed of the 24/7 title, and now your interview time has been cut short. It's funny because you're short. Those are the actual words he said.
Yeah.
It's funny because you're short. I hate this with all my soul.
Why is it that you get so offended by these segments?
I don't get offended by these segments. I get offended by bad TV. It's just really bad storytelling. It's really bad storytelling because Shorty G has not had a feud that hasn't revolved around him being short.
And also, he wins every single one of these feuds as well. So, like, if you were a heel and if you weren't an idiot, you would think, okay, I should probably stop making fun of him being short because he keeps beating up everyone who tells him he's short.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just like, oh, we need a heel for this segment. Oh, Mojo, you haven't called him short yet in your pop.
Yeah.
And also, here's your 1 week push because Gronk. And then the match later was 2 minutes and it ended in a roll up or something.
It wasn't quite 2 minutes. I actually quite enjoyed the match. But yeah, Cesaro and Nakamura were behind Shorty G in the interview. Cesaro just decks Gable and takes him straight down on the floor. New Day come in to break it up. So it's set for a 6-man tag later in the night of New Day and Gable versus Cesaro, Nakamura, and Mojo Rawley, which we'll get to later. But we had another match next, which was Lacey Evans versus Sonya Deville in a rematch from last week because there wasn't a decisive winner. And there still really wasn't a decisive winner in this one, despite there being a decisive winner. So it started off really well. Sonya Deville attacking Lacey Evans before the bell, which looked really cool because she came out of absolutely nowhere, which was great. And the match itself I thought was really good. Like I said last week, I think these two have really good chemistry and they put on a really good match. They got some time and they were able to put on a really fun match. Sonya Deville looked to be in control, possibly going in for, her finisher and stuff before Mandy Rose came up on the Titantron and called her out, distracted Sonya. Sonya turns around into a woman's right and Lacey gets the pin. So Lacey does get the win, but it's not super clean because there was the distraction.
So, yeah. So, the parts of this match I really like were the action in general, and I love Sonya's intensity and just her moveset, which is just blossomed since she's been in a single star. Like she's got these really like harsh looking moves that are completely safe, but they look like they look really painful. There was a point in the match where the referee was just replaced, and it played into nothing.
Yeah, it was very strange.
It was just that he just hit his leg, and he was like, "Oh, back off! Can you get someone else? Get some help!" And then no one came out, so he was like, "Oh crap, that's my one line. My leg again. Get some help! And then he gets replaced by Jessica Carr.
Mm-hmm.
Who is then just the referee.
Yeah, I thought that the point of that would be that someone was going to attack the ref and they wanted it to be a lady ref for, the lady match. I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was going to be something to do with that. It just didn't happen.
The only thing that happened was that Sonya used it to take down Lacey.
But that was during an ad break.
But it was just a normal takedown as well.
And it
wasn't like she did it with a weapon. Yeah, it was really strange. But yeah, so the ref was replaced for no reason.
So strange.
And then it carried on. I don't know. But yeah, then Mandy Rose comes on, clearly taking tips on tanning from the president because she was luminous.
Tangoed.
She really was ridiculously orange. But anyway, I won't go on about that because I say that every week. But yeah, Evan's got the women's right for the win. I don't like... If Sonya's going to lose, it should be with a distraction because I don't want her to win. I don't want her to lose clean, because she's still probably my favorite women's star at the moment in WWE. Yeah. I'm gonna go for it. But after that, all we had was a recap of Matt Riddle. And the entire promo was bro.
Then after that, we got Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles talking about their Intercontinental Championship match, which is next week. Reports are because it's a pre-tape match, that match is really, really good. Can't wait for that because apparently the crowd, the hired crowd, as it were, the WWE audience, were getting a bit sluggish. And apparently that match legitimately fired them up. They were like, oh my God, this is great. So I'm hoping that it's a really good match next week.
Yeah, but the crowd is full of developmental stars. So you can imagine it, even for them, it's pretty cool to see two people like Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles going at it. That's something you don't get to see a lot, even when you work kind of in the biz. So yeah, it must have been cool to watch. But yeah. Totally. Renee Young is there, so it's already the best segment on the show. Bryan calls AJ a coward and says that we have very different visions of what a champion is. And he says, if I was champion, I would want to defend every week. I would have been a fighting champion. I would want to help put other guys over because there might be someone who eventually beats me and they could become a hero for their fans. And it's quite clearly sort of riles AJ up and is like, oh, do you know what? All right. Do you know what? I'll have a match tonight and I'm going to have it against your mentor. I don't know how he's your mentor, but I'm going to have a match against him. I'm going to face Drew Gulak, recently re-signed Drew Gulak. And so, yeah, they have a match. Now, as soon as that was announced, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, literally. As soon as AJ was just like, yeah, well, I'm going to give an opportunity to your mentor, I was like, oh, are we getting Styles versus Gulak? Yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed the promo segment between these two because they're both right. Because Bryan is saying I'm going to be a fighting champion. I'm going to put over all these guys. I want to fight my way to it. And AJ's just like, hey, man, but I'm just smart. I just got to the final because that's a smart thing to do. I have more chance of winning if I don't fight to get there. I'm just smart about it. And he's right. He's just right. I thought it was
but then
really
he contradicts
good
himself by getting too cocky in the match. And
pretty much, yeah. The whole time he was just kind of taunting Bryan. After every big move he hit, he'd look at Bryan on the outside and just kind of make eye contact the whole time. But it was that cockiness that cost him because as he was setting up for the Styles Clash, he turned Gulak round so he could face Bryan as he was doing the Styles Clash. But then Gulak countered that, got in a roll-up. The roll-up, by the way, looked so clean. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not normally one to point out how great roll-ups look, but this one was really good because he like flipped over him and then held his arms down as he held the bridge. So like in like kayfabe, it made sense for him to win off that roll up because he was literally pinning his hands to the ground, so he like couldn't get his shoulders up. It just looked really good. Okay,
Yeah,
and Gulak got the roll up victory. I thought it was great.
Is such a slick wrestler anyway.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise that he kind of can make even something like that just look better than anyone else. But yeah, that was really good. I guess the next thing we had, because we had the window smash, then we had the 6-man tag.
Yeah, so we had New Day and Shorty G versus Cesaro, Nakamura, and Mojo, which had a really hot start. Was Gable just runs at Cesaro and tries to do like that cannonball kick thing that he does, where he does a front roll and kicks, and Cesaro just catches him, just both legs, just like nope, no you don't. I thought just straight away I was like, oh, I'm so into this match already. And I thought there was some really fun offense in this as well, like Mojo Rawley pouncing Kofi Kingston and Kofi literally flying to Mars off of it. I thought was brilliant. Completely turned himself inside out and just smashed his head off the apron while he did it. I was like, oh, what a great spot. It was awesome. There was so much like fun offense in that. The commentators were really putting over Mojo Rawley as like this future star. He's got all the potential in the world to be a future champion, etc. The Shorty G hot tag was really fun. The offense that he did for that was great. And there was loads of really kind of inventive spots in the short amount of time that they had. I think it was only, like 5-6 minutes. But the amount of offense they got in those 5-6 minutes was massive. And it ended with New Day picking up the pinfall onto Mojo Rawley as Gable on the outside was holding Nakamura and Cesaro as they tried to get into the ring to break it up. So kind of still furthering that feud at the same time as well. Thumbs up all round. I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, it could have just done like, you could have taken the 3 or 4 minutes from the Otis match and shoved them onto this one, and you could have made a really good match. Yeah. But I think that's it. That's the show.
Yeah.
And we had the main event.
It was just the main event after that. Yeah. Overall, I thought this was a pretty good show. Shorty G getting a bit of a push is nice. Hopefully his feuds just stop revolving around him being short. That would be great. Miz and Morrison stuff was hit and miss. But I'm more invested in the Sheamus Hardy feud for Backlash now as well. I really like the women's title stuff. Pretty much all of the matches on this card, bar Otis and Corbin, I thought were really good. They had some really fun, inventive spots. The promo segments were hit and miss, but I think the actual wrestling on the show was really good. I'd have given this a low 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. High 3.5. Or a low 4. Yeah,
pretty much spot on. But before we get out of here, we now need to say thank you to some very special people, and those are our $25 and above pledge hammers on Patreon. If you haven't gone over to WrestleTalk's Patreon page yet, you should. There's loads of extra bonus content and all sorts of great stuff. And if you pledge at the $25 or above tier, you get your own custom wrestling nickname, which gets read out on a show, much like this one. So thank you to the Wedding Crasher, Brandon Vaughn. Woo!
Oh, yeah. The Snapdragon King, Ryo Udonte.
Woo! Thank you very much. The Jester, Ryan Kester.
Oh,
Woo!
Wonderful. Joe.
Yes, thank you. The Incredible Tarzo. Yes, thank you.
Spoke in class today, Jeremy Smith.
Woo! Thank you. It's probably my favorite name, Ross Pooper Scooper Cooper.
Ah, amazing. Well done, Ross. The Machine Gun, Gregory Anderson.
Woo! Yes, thank you. The Redneck, Dennis Hicks. Woo! Thank you.
Golden, Nick Holden.
Woo! Thank you. Never Wrong, Tyler Wright.
Ah, wonderful. And finally, leader of the boys, Dalton Sizemore.
Woo! Thank you very much, all of our pledge hammers, and thank you for watching. Please press the videos that have just appeared on the screen to catch up with the latest awesome WrestleTalk things, and the button in the middle that will make you become a pledge hammer on Patreon. I've been Chubba Pequenell. I've been joined by Randy Andy Datson, and that was SmackDown.